I wanted to talk about uh, Anomaly. He's a great podcaster. I highly recommend it if you guys like honest people, like Dirty Sesh, but clean. Anomaly doesn't cuss much, and he goes on really great rants. He does really great interviews, asks hard-hitting questions, doesn't softball questions, because he's not a coward. He was, totally on the ball with the lockdown stuff way before a lot of other people were. And he never bowed down to that narrative. He didn't cuck out like a lot of people did. And he stood for his principles and values. Like, even when he couldn't travel because he didn't want to wear a mask, he didn't travel, didn't cuck out. So I really like his channel. Highly recommend people to go check him out. He did this really great interview with a political candidate in the US running for president called Vivek. Uh, I'm not a fan of Vivek because thankfully Anomaly has done some coverage on Vivek before this interview. Sorry. And he's talked about why he also doesn't distrust he also doesn't trust Vivek because Vivek comes from a big pharma background. That's how he made his money. But now he's just saying all these right things that people want to hear, like how he's against vaccine mandates and lockdowns, blah blah blah, which I don't trust because his track record of saying stuff like how masks, you know, it's like a personal responsibility or something like that, and how he doesn't like how Republicans aren't, wearing them or whatever nonsense on Twitter that he said. And he came out of nowhere and became so popular so quickly. I think it's super shady. He wasn't there and wasn't speaking up when people were really suffering, when it really mattered, this guy wasn't there. But now he's pretending to be on your side. I think that's a super suspicious. So I really like that Anomaly interviewed him. So I do respect that Vivek and his team did have the guts to go on Anomaly's show because Anomaly, actually asks serious questions and doesn't fall for like the talking around the problem instead of giving a proper direct answer. And he does push back. So let's hear a clip from that original interview.
You say you're being honest. I heard two interviews. I quoted you. You said, when I didn't have the money and back when I didn't have a lot of money to do it. Those are direct quotes from you. Fox Digital News did a report and they said that the year that you took the award from Soros, you
saw
made
that.
$2.2 million that year and over $1 million for 3 years total. So
can I address the facts?
Did you really need the money or are you just saying that?
Well, let me address a couple of facts right there. So how do people know that? One thing they should know is it's because I did something that no presidential candidate has ever done. And I was aware of what I've said and when I've released it. We published 20 years of tax returns.
So here is when it starts. He constantly did this throughout the interview. Whenever any time Anomaly had a question directly addressing a problem that people had, Vivek would talk around the question and answer it with going, "Oh, I'm different to the other Republicans. I'm doing this, they're doing that." That's how he tries to evade some of the questions. So the problem they're talking about here is Vivek had accepted a scholarship from Paul and Daisy Soros, who's related to George Soros. He accepted a pretty big scholarship when he was studying. And people had some questions because it was like, why did you accept the scholarship? Do you have links to the Soros brothers? Do you work for them? What's your agenda here? And Vivek made a lot of money. So he tried to use the excuse before that it was a needs-based thing, like he was poor or something. But he had actually made millions of dollars the year before, like Anomaly was saying here.
Nobody who's running for U.S. president has published 20 years of tax returns, certainly not somebody who's been successful in business. And the reason is I believe transparency is important. I would love for every other political candidate to do that. None of them do it because they want to hide. So I voluntarily, in the early weeks of this campaign, put that on the internet for everybody to see. Anybody who on your show who's visiting, media or anybody else, can see it for themselves. Now, if you want to interpret that correctly, so let me just tell you, if you want to get to the facts.
Yeah, he kept, during the interview, I found it really annoying. He kept going, let me tell you. Let me explain to you. Basically, let me tell you what's the truth, what's the fact. And then he would make these really underhanded digs at An0maly, which I thought was kind of passive aggressive, about like wanting An0maly to be honest with his audience and to be a straight shooter and stuff like that. And I'm like, you keep saying this as if, but it's actually a very covert, manipulative way of talking, because you're implying that An0maly isn't a straight shooter and isn't, you know, being honest with his audience in that interview. It was super dodgy.
I mean, I don't think these facts matter at all, but if you care about them, I'll go into them. Fall of 2010, I applied. My first major payday at the hedge fund I was working for was the year-end bonus I got in 2010, and then my real big payday then came in 2011. So at the time I applied for that scholarship, yeah, I didn't have. My parents know, me know, had not earned big-time money. So the fall of 2010 when I applied, absolutely. Now, at the year-end 2010, December 31st, for people in the finance industry, that's when you know that was a biggest paycheck by an order of magnitude I've ever gotten. And then 2011, it just kept going up from there. But the other thing I'll say is, to anybody else who's young and receiving advice, even if you have $1 million in the bank account and somebody gives you a $50,000 scholarship, yeah, take it. Don't take it if there's strings attached and they say you can't say certain things. Turn down that money. But yeah, if you have $1 million and somebody gives you 50 grand more and you earned it, go for it and take it too. Turns out though that that wasn't even the position I was in. It was the following year, and you want to match up the tax returns, do the facts right. The reason I've done it is so that everybody else has full transparency. And so I just think it's important that people understand that.
Well, just real quick before we move on, the Fox Digital News report says you made over $1 million 3 years prior, and then that year you made 2.2. So, I mean, if you say, you know, if you get free money, take it. That's one thing. If you say I don't have the money, that's fair.
Well, to tell you the truth, compared to where I am right now, put yourself in the. I mean, it wasn't a need-based scholarship; it's a merit scholarship. But I say that, you know what, I am wealthy now. Okay, I was not wealthy by the standards that I used to judge that back then. And yes, $50,000 meant a heck of a lot to me when I was 24 years old. All right. You can look up my tax returns post-tax, the way you accumulate it. Had I earned a few $100,000? Yes. Leading up to that, did it become millions later and hundreds of millions?
Yeah. So he keeps like shifting the timeline and like trying to distract from the fact that he did make money before that time. He keeps highlighting his age. Like, oh, I was in my mid-20s. I was young and needed the money. And then he says later on, you know, it wasn't a needs thing. It was very like, he's very smooth at lying. I'll give him that. I think it's quite suspicious when people talk like that, where they can't give you a straight answer. And when they try to distract you with other facts about themselves and trying to like play the, oh, I was young, you know, and try to shirk accountability. So the next clip I wanted to show you was from the following video that An0maly made as a reaction to his Vivek interview and some of the responses and stuff that he got as a result. Let me just make sure that it's full screen. Okay.
Someone said I'm not anti-pharmaceuticals. I know the history of pharmaceuticals. You know how many kids they're trying to give ADD medicine to? They're jacking your kids up on all these sort of pharmaceuticals. Every single television station you watch, hey, do you have skin that has a problem? Well, I wonder why the skin's a problem. Is there anything else going on in this world? No. Take a pharmaceutical. Take a vaccine. Take a flu vaccine. Take a COVID shot. Take a booster. Take another pharmaceutical. The side effects are bleeding liver, but we don't have a liability for the side effects on vaccines. But for this, we do. your head could fall out, your brain could die.
Talk so
Take
fast.
this pill. Oh, An0maly, you just hate pharmaceuticals, huh? Oh, An0maly, what do you hate obesity because people are fat now? You just hate everybody? It's like, no, the country is being absolutely bamboozled by the pharmaceutical industry on 15 different levels, and people don't care because it's like, sports ball, I like Trump, it's my whole personality now. I don't care about nothing, not my kids, not my family, not my food. I don't care about my air. I certainly don't care about myself. I mean, I can't even get out of my couch, but I watch Donald Trump and Vivek, and they're my friends, and anybody. It's not nihilism, it's reality. I take care of myself, my life's good. I'm not a nihilist at all. It's the reality of what's happening to our country. If you say the border's open, is that nihilism? Hey guys, the border's wide open. Joe Biden is letting millions of people through the. Oh, you're just a nihilist. That's not. It is happening. I'm not telling you to freak out about it every day, but that's happening. Either you admit that's happening and say, hey, look, the border's open, or you fantasy cosplay, which is what the Republican Party's turned into. I'm just going to pretend like it's not happening and I'm going to be an optimist. Then be an optimist, but it's still happening. Doesn't mean you got to cry about it, but I'm just saying it's like.
Yeah, so I really like what An0maly was saying. He was talking about, like, as a response to a comment someone had on his stream saying that, oh, he hates pharmaceuticals, because they were talking about the Vivek thing and how he was relating to Vivek having had a pharmaceutical background. I really liked, yeah, what the message An0maly has for people is to not live vicariously through politicians and sports ball. Yeah, like left, right wing, I'm on the left team or I'm on the right team, let's pick our guy. And it comes at a cost of you not taking your own, personal responsibility for your own life and choosing to try to change things within your own, life or within your own community. I also really liked, he made a really good point. I can't remember where in this video it was because it's a long stream, where he was saying earlier in this clip that I did show, he was talking about the optimism thing. Like when people try to point out facts or reality, a lot of people respond by saying, oh, you're so pessimistic, or you're a nihilist, like what they were calling An0maly. But he was saying this is just reality. Like, you don't want to look at reality. That's not optimism. And later on, he calls it cowardice masquerading as optimism, which I really agree with, because how can you deny reality, what's happening right in front of you, and think that you're an optimist? You're just delusional. You're choosing to not face reality because you don't want to admit what's happening in front of your face. That's cowardice. And An0maly is right. Like, we can't just keep pretending like things didn't happen, like the vaccine stuff, the injuries or whatever, like, and the excess death stuff that I've, done a video about. People don't want to face that reality. They just want to, bury their heads in the sand. And if you try to point it out, they're like, oh, why are you in, such a dark place? Or why are you being so negative? What a depressing way to live. I'm like, it's reality, okay? You can only run away from it for so long before it comes knocking at your door. There are consequences to denying reality. I don't want to be delusional. I want to live in the truth, even if it's a hard truth. And for people to pretend like they're just being optimistic, no, you're just being a coward. We lived through 3 years of the results and consequences of cowardice. People refused to see the truth of what their government was doing, taking their own rights away from them, locking them in their own homes, and going, oh, everything's gonna be all right. If I just listen to the government, if I just, stay in 2 more weeks, another 2 more weeks, another month, then everything will be okay. Oh, they're telling me now I gotta take a vaccine and then everything will be okay. That's not optimism. You're enabling crazy behavior and you're being delusional because you refuse to face reality, the hard truth about what is happening. So yeah, I thought that was quite thought that was a good clip to show from An0maly because I really like his stuff and really respect his work.